Customers staying away, debt piling up, consumer confidence a distant dream. Coronavirus is a nightmare scenario that business owners have never faced before. How do you keep running when people aren't buying? This is Roundtable. Loans, tax breaks, emergency funding. Governments have been scrambling to help businesses, big and small, face up to the coronavirus crisis. But when orders collapse to almost zero, even the most successful operations are fighting to survive.
The coronavirus crisis has had a crippling impact on all areas of life. It has prompted mass job losses and business closures. According to a CNBC survey, once the pandemic ends, businesses may take 6 months to get back up and running normally. Even multinational companies like McDonald's and KFC are being forced to close their doors. But for small businesses, the uncertainty around how long they will be closed for plays a looming factor in their survival. Governments around the globe are launching their own measures to help keep businesses afloat, from offering low-interest loans, tax breaks, and even emergency money. The UK government will provide loans of up to $6 million to small and medium businesses. But will these measures be enough to help firms stay afloat? And with all the uncertainty that lies ahead, how can businesses, big and small, survive the coronavirus outbreak?
Joining us at the roundtable again in London is Asad Hamir, who is a technology entrepreneur and founder of Noli, which is a mobile accessory business. We also have Kwame Otiende, who is the director and owner of the Jago, which is a community arts and cultural venue here in London. And we have Cuneyt Cicek, who is the chief executive officer of MyBranders International, which is a business based in Poland. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, gentlemen. So again, quite extraordinary times that we are living in. Let me just ask you the first simple question, starting with Asad. How are you dealing with what coronavirus has thrown up?
Very challenging. I'm actually working from home, so I'm in my son's bedroom here. So it's the kind of first thing. It's quite a culture shock, working from home, normally in the office. But I think financially, very challenging, very, very challenging. I think to be thrown into this situation just in such a rapid fashion has been, really difficult, because you're basically on the back foot and you're scrambling around and you're going cap in hand to a lot of people. So whether it's landlords, suppliers, there's no contracts that could have prepared you for anything like this. No insurer, has COVID-19 on their policies. It's tough. It's really, really tough. I'm still smiling, just about. But I think the main thing is you've got to try and, in those relationships that you invested in over the years, that's when they come to the fore. And what I'm finding is people are very willing to kind of help, but at the same time, within their commercial constraints. But it's tough. It's really tough.
I'm sure. And Kwame, you work for a community organisation. How has yours been affected by the coronavirus? How is business doing?
I think within our industry, it is everything's come to a complete standstill. I run a live music venue, which also happens to be a community arts and cultural space. Obviously, no one can go out. No one can go out to watch music or, to a club or to a bar within the whole sort of hospitality industry. So, for us, it's pretty much everything's at a standstill, everything's shut. And we're just trying to, work from home. We were planning on having some streaming shows maybe, but now that the government's talking about a lockdown, that does not seem like it will go forward. So at the moment, we're not very sure. We're just waiting to see what happens next.
And Cuneyt Cicek, you are more internationally exposed, I suppose, with your business. How are you dealing with it? You're based in Poland. A lot of your clients are Turkish. You deal with Russia. the US and the UK, amongst other countries. How is your business coping?
Actually, we start to work from home since 1 month, and we are helping business to branding. We are international businesses, brand management and consulting company. So we help our businesses to support them in the field in the different countries, especially the business from Turkey. And now we have come to the situation that we cannot go out and to meet with the businesses, with the potential our partners. And we have arranged some expos, and we support to attend with our client from Turkey in Poland, in Warsaw. But we had to cancel it 2 weeks ago. So basically, we just moved to home and we start to help our businesses to develop them more in digital area. And it's quite challenging. And now in Poland, we cannot go out, and the government just explained it today. So it's quite challenging, and businesses are trying to cope up with the situation, and they are thinking 1 or 2 months that they can cope up with, but if it gets longer, it's going to be very hard for the businesses to keep going on.
And Kwame, you mentioned the uncertainty. Of course, there are many things that are uncertain at the moment, but how much is that a factor in the running of your business?
I think the unfortunate bit is that because we are being drip-fed information, it just means that we cannot plan at all. It also means that, for example, we've got about 8 members of staff. We've had to tell them we can only pay them for the next month. Anything longer than that, we can't really provide any information. We've tried reaching out to the banks, for example. There's some funding that was put in place by the Chancellor. And even the banks do not seem to be very sure how we will, as an industry, access this fund that's been made available. So I think there's a lot of confusion within our whole industry.
And Asad, you're in the same boat, aren't you? You're an employer and you're based in the UK, so you would have access to these measures too. What do you make of them, and are they going to do what you need them to do?
So there was a lot of noise when these measures came out last week. A lot of a lot of excitement in a way, trying to get over some of the challenges. But then getting those things into reality, getting them into the banks so that people can draw down on the funds is just not feeding through. And this is where I think government, just in the same way, they're trying to deal with the health crisis in a rapid way, making regular changes on a daily basis to their health strategy and how people, whether they stay at home, lockdowns and retail and things like that, there has to be the same rapid approach when it comes to fiscal policy. So Rishi Sunak has put forward a ginormous financial package last week, but it's unacceptable that a week later, businesses cannot draw down on those funds. We are almost at the end of the month. We have to pay our rents, we have to pay our wages, and the government needs to act faster. It should not take this long for banks to know how businesses can draw down on these funds. And yeah, we are all in the same boat. It is very, very challenging, and every day literally chasing up with the banks, twice a day almost on WhatsApps. Have you heard? Have you heard? And nothing has come through. And I think just to add slightly, on the wages side of things, it's the same thing. So there was a wage protection scheme that was supposed to be brought forward. Again, no one has a clue how it works. So very tough, very, very tough.
And Cuneyt Cicek, you're not UK based. What measures have governments put in place to help your business where you are?
Actually, our headquarters, I just want to correct, our headquarters is in Istanbul, and I'm currently just working in Poland. And so we're basically looking for the Turkish government, what they provide to us. And today there was some measurements in a fiscal way. The bank, without having any question, they will provide 25,000 Turkish lira, which is equivalent to $6,000. Plus $6,000, totally $12,000 as a backup to the small and medium businesses, without asking any question about their business scope. So this kind of measurements actually help us to keep going on and help us, our partner, to keep going on. But as I mentioned before, like this situation cannot get longer. Like 1 or 2 months, we can cope up with this kind of measurement without going out to work at home, to pay to our worker. But if it gets longer, then we have to take much more serious measurements as a businesses with our partners. And because today it's hard part, like Turkish government start to support the manufacturer, and they are paying 60% of the workforce for the factories. So this actually helped the businesses to keep going on. But so eventually we will have to, like, again, come back to factory and produce with our customers. So this is challenging.
And you work in the branding arena. Obviously, confidence is a big factor surrounding your business. Are you finding that consumer confidence has ebbed away, and how is that having an effect?
This is also a bit problematic. It's kind of a closed circle. So while government is supporting our businesses and our production, our customers, in the same times we have to somehow give some chance to the normal people, to the customers, our real customer and customers, to make them to spend the money, because while we continue lock the people at the homes, and when it gets longer, people stop to spending. While people not spending, so production, brand management, it's also like getting slowed down. And so we are offering to our customers, our producers, that in that times it's not about to earning money, but it's about to keep social responsibility about the end customers, about the brand and worker health, and to paying their salary, like trying to cope up with the situation. So this is what we are offering to our customers.
And Kwame, Asad mentioned earlier about the loans and the difficulty that the banks were having administrating that. Have you found that in your business? Is that a problem? Access to money, to, even though the governments have given these grants, actually accessing that loan?
Yeah. Similarly, I think number one is getting access to these loans, and on top of that, I think a lot of businesses will have a problem wanting to take on further debt. I think that is a massive issue, because the way I read it is that this could go 2 months, 3 months, and we then go out and take an extra £25,000 in debt. And then at the end of all this, at the end of this pandemic, we then have to pay 25,000. So, we come out of this in maybe June or July, and we've got an extra 25,000 debt. I think a lot of businesses will probably not be in a position to even pay back that debt in the first place. And then with regards to the grants, as has been mentioned, no one's really sure. I mean, currently we have information that this will be given by the local council. So my borough is Hackney. But on the Hackney website, there's a statement that reads that we should just wait until they reach out to us. And if they don't by the 15th of April, then we can contact them and ask them what's happening with the grant. So at the moment, we are waiting for the banks and we're waiting for the council.
And does it reassure you that the government has said it will fund wages at an 80% rate for an unlimited amount of time? Is that reassuring? Is that enough, do you think?
It would be if we were sure that we'd get the money in the first place. I mean, at the moment, because we can't even access it, it just seems like it was, a headline-grabbing sort of statement by the Chancellor. To me, this is just, I don't know, maybe politics as usual.
And what do you think, Asad?
I think it's how long businesses can sustain it. So the key thing about that 80% is that you're not just paying 80%, you're paying 100%, and then the government's reimbursing you 80%. There's a lot of confusion around it, but that is what I've heard from my accountant. So you're still having to fund the 20%. If you've got no revenue coming in, how long can the business sustain it? I think for individuals, it's challenging, right? So if they're only getting paid 80% of their income, and there's so many people very close to the line when it comes to their income versus their expenses every month. So how many people is that gonna take over the line? The mortgage holiday and things like that will help in the short term. But again, to the point Kwame's raised around taking on debt, that's a big part of the government's policy is, they've been talking about mortgage holidays, we're talking about, business interruption loans. It's all debt. We're all supposed to be taking on debt. I mean, mortgage holiday means that the mortgage company's not going to remove the mortgage for those 3 months. They just simply move it along to the rest of your mortgage. So we're pushing the problem further down the line. Time will tell, I guess, whether or not that's the right thing to do. But I think, the challenge is for the government is they have to act fast now, and they've obviously been able to get this through. It's helped short term, and I guess they're looking to probably solve the problem more longer term in the next few months.
And let me ask you about disruption to the supply chain, because your business has a lot of dealings with China. You import mobile technology from there. Yeah. How has the disruption in the supply chain been a large factor in your business now?
So we've been feeling coronavirus from January. It's been widely noted that obviously with China's lockdown across the country, most in the Hubei province, but it extended into Shenzhen and Dongguan, which are the regions in China which most iPhones and Samsung phones and most of the mobile telecoms market is manufactured. So we started to see supply issues about a month or so ago. So we've not been able to fulfill the demand in the last month. And this is the unique thing about the coronavirus. This is not just a demand issue now. This is a supply problem. Now, on the other hand, China's back open, so there will be supply coming through. But if the demand is not there from our side with China, will they need to lay off workers? Will they need to close down factories? How long is industry here gonna take a beating so that then obviously feeds through into China? So it's going to be an interesting few months, and it feels, it's very uncomfortable saying this, but we are heading into a recession like we've never felt before or seen before.
And Cuneyt Cicek, what about the supply chain's effect on your business? Are you feeling it?
Yes, actually, in the very beginning of the January, like when China market was already shut down, Turkish business got quite a lot of offers, like from abroad, a lot of orders in different sectors. But since 1 or 2 weeks, it's already stopped, and businesses shut down their fabrics. Most of them, they are like decreasing their capacity. They are not able to produce. They are able to produce, but they are not able to sell it abroad, because most of the big companies from Europe, especially, they cancel their order. So they have to somehow cut down the production process. And this is actually it's not good. It's not good for the long term, because when the companies stop to producing and when the people stop to earning, the demand also will be cut off. When people don't have money, when they don't buy more, so the market supply chain is going to have a really big problem. Now the borders are closed, and the transportation companies cannot transport so easily. So it's causing really big problem from day to day.
And Kwame Otiende, I imagine that the problem for you is not so much the supply chain, but the restriction of movements that are now becoming increasingly firm in the UK, at least. How do you see your business getting through that if we are restricted on going out to venues like yours for an as yet unlimited period of time? 3 weeks at the moment, but potentially longer.
I think as it currently stands, we're definitely shut. There's nothing much that we can do. Morally as well, we would not even like to encourage people to come out. So I think when it comes down to sort of restaurants, live music venues, theaters, we will have to write this out right up until the end, because we are, as a business model, spaces where you get big numbers of people congregating together. So I think for us, it's shut down until everything returns to normal.
And is there anything that any government could do to ease the burden on you right now? Anything that they haven't suggested that would really make a difference?
I think, for example, within I'm in a few WhatsApp groups, and there's one that is sort of NTIA, which is our sort of industry nighttime industries association. There's some really good suggestions that people are coming up with, including support for freelance people, freelance. A lot of people that work within this industry are on 0-hour contracts, so support for self-employed, freelance, people on 0-hour contracts, that sort of thing. And then support that is very clear, that is accessible, that that we don't have to wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks from one body to another. So the chancellor says this, and then we have to then go to the local councils, and the local councils don't seem to be sure about what's happening. I think it's just the government providing that support and making sure that that support is accessible.
And how about you, Asad? Is there anything that could be done that isn't being done? Something specific that would really help you?
So personally, for me, it's support on the rental side of things for commercial property. So we have 12 retail stores, and at the moment, we're negotiating with landlords. But there is no reason why landlords right now should agree to whether it's a rent holiday or a rental reduction over the next 3 months. So with no revenue coming in, it's obviously a very challenging situation. So I've written to various MPs on that. There's not anything looking to be tabled soon, but that is what I would say is the biggest thing. But just one thing generally, in the same way they've asked us to drop everything and rapidly move indoors and change our lives and everything. I think that same speed is needed on the commercial side of things. So remove the red tape, please. Allow us to access funds as quickly as possible. Work with banks. Get that message through to the banking system as quickly as we can, so we can draw down those funds and we can secure UK businesses.
And Cuneyt, globally, is there anything that you would like to see happening?
The economic system is mostly based on the demand. When there is no demand, so the total economy is going to collapse. So we have to just support the unemployment. We have to pay them money, give them money without any credit. It's just a grant to them. Monthly minimum wage should have been given to the normal people, that we should continue to support their spending and their economic activity. This will help us globally all.
And Kwame, I realize your business is based in an arts space, but is there any suggestion that you might be able to evolve in a different way which might help the recovery of your business? Because now people are looking to an uncertain point in the future where the pandemic is over and the possibility of recovery. How might your business evolve to deal with that?
At the moment, as I mentioned before, we were looking at having streaming music to start with. Once sort of the lockdown, if there's going to be a lockdown, and once that's lifted, but for example, the government says that we still can't go back to normal. We use our space for activities like yoga, Spanish classes. So hopefully we'll be able to go ahead with that type of activity. But I think at the moment, streaming looks like the most likely solution. At least, even if it's not because we derive a monetary some monetary value out of it, it helps the brand. It keeps us, it keeps our customer base engaged with us. It's also, a lot of people are going to be at home, really bored. So in terms of us doing something for our local community, that could be a good way, having for example, a jazz show that our customers can watch online. I think that might help.
And Asad Hamir, do you see your business evolving in perhaps a different direction in order to cope with what coronavirus has thrown at us?
Yeah, I think, when you're at home with your thoughts, you think a lot about these things. And I think in a lot of ways, I think in the short term, we've got to be more efficient. So in terms of our cost base, we're going to be looking at everything and making sure that we can trim down. At times you can probably get comfortable in business, and I think it's a good point for us to readdress that. I think it's going to be interesting to see how consumer mindset changes post this coronavirus, and I think we've got to watch that to then adapt our business model to that. We have to try and push as much as we can more online. I do think we may start to see a bit of a revival more so towards supporting local businesses. It's been the sentiment on social media, especially more recently, so that potentially could help with retail. And I think, more than anything, I think, something for us to all just think about is how we create more sustainable business models for the future.
Okay, food for thought. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining us at the Roundtable. That's Asad Hamir, Cuneyt Cicek and Kwame Otiende. So thanks again to our guests. Remember, you can see more discussion and debate on our YouTube channel. Search for TRT World Roundtable. But for now, from me and all the team here, goodbye and thank you for watching.